Welcome into 11 Personnel presented by Monticello Bank. Nick Roush, Adam Luckett here with you to enjoy another cup of coffee and settle down for a little transfer portal talk. I've loved the 5 o'clock shadow, Luckett. You're really steering into the bit. Oh, look at how hard I'm working. I don't even have time to shave or fix my hair. It's just the guy who always wears hats. How are we doing? How's the how am I? Are they? We'll come a little rough. We'll be all right though. It's just a little football. It's just a little. This ain't hard work. Look at how we doing? How we feeling?
Doing pretty good. Actually, a lot of people got a lot of enjoyment out of my 3 a.m. update threw on the
They
board last
did.
night. But really, I was just up. And so I actually went to bed early last night. I actually feel as rested as I've been in a long time. I think I fell asleep at like 10. Just got up with the
Nice.
baby at 3 a.m. So I'm actually feeling pretty good. So
It is one of those things where I almost feel like there's a good alternating somebody of the 3 or 4 of us, one of us is going to be up at some random hour when news breaks, and I've been fortunate enough that it's nights where I'm getting ready to start winding down. I oh something's happening. Let's
well,
go.
all of last week it felt like something broke as soon as I stepped away to go get dinner ready. Pick
Which
up
is
the
the
kids, go get
worst.
dinner ready. I'm like,
That's the
really?
worst feeling.
I'm literally around for 14 hours of the day when I'm not sleeping. And this is I need like 2 hours where I can just step away and do some stuff where I can't be at the computer right away. And I'm like, really? This is when we're going to do this?
Oh man,
So that's how it
I
goes. But
I remember
what it is.
specifically because I was just like, "Whew!" Glad that I got down right there because it was you had just stepped away and I was really locked in, and it was like, "Boom, boom, boom." I think it's when we found out that Wolfslayer was visiting. So yeah, there's just a lot happening, a lot going on, a lot of visitors. Um, you know who's always going to be there for you, Mister Luckett?
Who's that?
Monticello Bank, because it's where people matter. They've been with us for 128 years, and they ain't stopping now. Putting the people of the good Commonwealth of Kentucky first to make sure you get the best rates, whatever the case may be, whether you're shopping for maybe a new car loan, maybe get your affairs in order to go buy yourself a new home next year. I know some interest rates are going down, so go on. Check out Monticello Bank today. Bank local. They're going to get you the best rates because Monticello Bank is where people matter. NBCbank.com or bank anywhere online with the Go NBC mobile app. Monticello Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender, proud presenting sponsors of 11 Personnel. Big shout out to our good friends at Monticello Bank. Well, I mentioned Wolfslager. I guess we'll go right into the O-line developments, recap the commits, and then kind of start looking ahead to the future because this offseason was all predicated on fixing the O-line, fixing the O-line, fixing the O-line. And 2 out of the first 5 are starting caliber. Well, I don't say starting caliber. Multi-year starters, all conference performers to fortify one side of the offensive line. Mr. Luckett, what's your take on one Alex Wolfslager and one Josh Braun?
Yeah, with Wolfslager, I think plug and play, starting right tackle, position of need. Bowling Green listed him about 6'7", 310. Be interested to see how actually big he is. He looks bigger than 310 on tape. I think at Pass Pro, he's got guys that big, they're kind of hard to get around, so that gives him an advantage. We'll see how he does against more athletic edge rushers in the SEC. But run blocking wise, I think he really gives them an upgrade there. I think he does a really good job moving bodies, gets movement on double teams downhill. It's really good run blocker, and I think he took a really big jump as his development went through at Bowling Green. Had a big year this past year as a redshirt senior. He's a guy they signed. He was 250 pounds out of Chicago. And so he's shown development, I think, throughout his career, multi-year starter. I think there's a lot to like there with him. And then over to Josh Braun, 3-year starter in the SEC. He's played a ton of football. His experience at both the guard spots, I think plug and play starter. really, really big, 6'6", 338 pounds.
Big boy.
You add that with Jalen Farmer, who's 6'5", I would say right around 330, probably between 315 and 330. Those are some big guards. You add it with Wolfschlager, who I think is a big tackle. Like that should give you some power in the run game, be able to move bodies downhill. And we talked about nonstop how they have to fix the O-line. What really that means is like we've got to be able to, hey, rock 'em, sock 'em robots. We're running the football, and let's go. And that's how they want to operate. And I think these are all good additions on paper. Braun had a relationship with Wolford back to when he was a high school recruit, when Wolford was at South Carolina, so that came up big there. I don't know what happened at Arkansas, Nick. I mean, Bobby Petrino shows up and everyone quits. Like what's going on down there in Fayetteville? I mean, he's really working that magic fast. Is he trying to rip it up from the inside out? Is that what is going on?
Well, Phil Fulmer
when
situation?
He has 100% approval rating, right? What is going on there in Hogville? But Kentucky will take Braun. I think that's a good addition. I think he's going to be their starting left guard, and now that leaves them. I think they're looking at center, left tackle, and I think you'll probably see them address depth too at the position. So they're not done with OL recruiting yet in the portal, but I think it was a good job. Like both those guys, Wolfschlager, Braun, got both of them on campus, had them essentially committed before they left.
Yeah,
when they announced. But I think that good process there. They hit on your top two targets at two positions of need, and now they're trying to close on left tackle, which is looking like Gunnar Hansen, the Vanderbilt transfer, is a top target, and we'll see if they can close on him.
I think some folks might have been a little confused because you're like, wait, I thought they liked what they had at guard, but there's certainly a sense of like, hey, if we can get this guy, let's get this guy. He's a good ball player. So I did think it was noteworthy too. He previously played at Jalen Farmer. He started his career at Florida. What I really like about Wolfschlager is he feels like an old school Kentucky offensive lineman. His development sort of trajectory, his path. The On3 database listed him as 6'6", 250 when he got to Bowling Green. I don't think he started playing football till his junior year of high school. So he's just been adding weight. His 3-year starter, I think he only missed maybe one game that whole entire run. Second year starting, he's third team all conference. By the time he's a senior, he's a captain and the best right tackle in the MAC for the team who just missed out on the MAC championship game. So like that sort of recruit and develop, like that development, that feels very old school. That feels like a classic culture fit. I don't know him from Adam. Well, actually, I know you pretty well, so of course I don't know him from Adam. But you know what I mean? Like, from the outside looking in, it looks like one of your traditional guys. And when they talked all offseason about that, like you need to be about it too. So I think that's a nice step in the right direction for the offensive line. I think we should mention some of the other guys while we're on it, because what's funny to me is just how some players handle the portal in the bowl games. With Arizona State, they're in the playoff, and Kenny Dillingham's like, go get in the portal, but just keep playing with us. Western Kentucky, a lot like Veltkamp is in the portal, but he's playing in the bowl game, correct? And then TJ Finley, he just left. He's going to Tulane, the backup. And then Evan Wibberly, he's not in the portal at all, but he's telling people that he's visiting Kentucky the day after the bowl game.
Well, I thought he was in the portal, but he hadn't announced it.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
Okay. Well, it doesn't matter if you don't announce it. We know.
Yeah. And Wolfschlager, I believe, told Jacob he's playing in the bowl game. I think Jacob's in the chat. He can maybe confirm that with us.
But like that just fascinates me. It's not as funny as the guys who though are like the guys who are visiting the schools that they already attended. It just cracks me up. Cameron Calhoun, who I believe committed to 4 different schools. Kentucky was one of them. It was West Virginia, Kentucky, Cincinnati, and then Michigan. Plays in Michigan for a year, wins the national championship, goes to Utah. He visited Alabama today, and he's supposed to be going back to Michigan.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just silly. It's so
Pete
silly right now.
Nakos reported today that Keyshawn Silver probably take a visit to North Carolina. He left North Carolina, come to Kentucky. Silver's taken 4 visits already. That would be a 5th. Enjoying that recruiting process. But Jacob, to that point, confirmed that Wolfschlager is playing in their bowl game. That game is on December 26th. That's the bowl game down in Mobile. That's a after dark kickoff, 9 p.m. So you can watch them. And Nick, I bet Wibberly, I have a hunch the reason probably why he hasn't announced is because he's probably playing in that bowl game on Wednesday, tomorrow.
Yeah. No,
yeah,
that's the plan from what I understand. Is that he's
so you talk about fixing the culture. Like these Josh Braun feels I'm married already and I don't have time for your shit right now. That Eli Cox held down for a couple years. He steps right into that role. So you've gotten some old dudes who played a lot of snaps who seem pretty serious. And I'm, looking forward to getting to know some of these guys to see what they're about. But all of those guys have kind of, I think, overachieved from their recruiting ranking to this point. Even Braun, a guy like four-star recruit, to be a 3-year starter in the SEC is a productive one. It's a compliment in of itself. I think Wolfschlager and Braun are a good year away from being drafted. We'll see. Wibberly will be a redshirt junior, so Kentucky will probably have him for 2 years whenever they get him in the fold. So, again, I think good process here. They're getting bigger. Bigger means we can move big people. Moving big people means you can run the football better. Having bigger offensive linemen just from a size standpoint makes you better in pass pro because they're harder to work around. We'll see how the protection holds up. I know everyone wants to throw out the Jalen Milroe sack stats with Eric Wolford, but Mark Stoops brought him here to get players, and that's what's happened to this point. And so I think you have to like their process so far, what they've done on the offensive line, and that has set the foundation here, I think, in the portal where we're entering right now, whereas now it's kind of shifting into, all right, we've got the big guys, let's go get some skill talent players.
There is one big guy left remaining. They need a left tackle, and that's up in the air. Gunnar Hansen from Vanderbilt. He's a multi-year starter there who played guard, left tackle, right tackle, did a little everything. I think we talked about him last week. He did make it out of his Florida State visit, and I believe, was that supposed to start today? I don't know.
That's why we got the spreadsheet here. This is what a spreadsheet's for. He was at South Carolina on 12-13. He was at Florida State yesterday, and I think he's supposed to get to UK tonight, but it'll probably be like Maalik Murphy, where
shows up late.
He's here tonight and be there tomorrow with Zach Calzada.
Yeah.
They've had the visit together, and they'll probably do a bunch of stuff together.
So Hansen feels like not their last, but they're the guy that they're going to go for at that spot. And I don't have the skinny on like what's going to ultimately help Kentucky win that recruiting battle or not. But it feels like he is the big left tackle that they want to finish things up. But he, as you said, he's done a little bit more visiting. He's been recruited a little bit harder by some other schools, and it's just I don't think it's a done deal by any stretch of the imagination. They're gonna work to wrap that one up.
Yeah, Hansen, I still need to watch the tape, but as I've mentioned before, he's got right tackle and left tackle experience. Vandy switched their tackles this year. He played some left guard in 2022 for the Doors. I believe he was named SEC Lineman of the Week after their Bama win.
That's correct.
This feels like Kentucky's had a lot of transfer portal recruiting wins where they're like, hey, that guy was good against us. Let's recruit him. Marcus Cox, obviously, stands out. Ray Davis. This could be something similar. Get an SEC starting left tackle, multi-year starter at left tackle. There's a lot to like there. He's shown improvement from last year to this year, but obviously the scheme is different. One thing I do worry about, the 15 penalties the last 2 years. So that's not something you want to see.
Not ideal.
So that'll be something to watch. But again, that's the guy they're going for. He's listed at 6'5", 330 pounds. So another big guy. I mean, you're talking 330, 340. I believe Wood released White at 300. Farmer 320, 330. I think Woolslager, I'll be interested to see get an accurate weight on him. He looks like he's 315 to 320. That's a big offensive line potentially that Kentucky could have. Big means move people. Move people means you'll be able to run the football.
Yeah, and Kentucky wants to run the damn ball. And our guy Jacob Polachek, he talked to Kentucky's top running back target today. That's up on KSR and KSR Plus. We shared that for all of our friends on the free site just to get a sample of what you'll see on the plus side. If you haven't subscribed today, promo code UK1 will get you 2 months for $1. Check it out today. What he said, I know they ride their horses down there, and I like horses too, or something like that. I don't have it pulled out in front of me, but the biggest takeaway I got from Mr. Polachek's conversation with Ahmad Hardy is, what the hell, Drink? Get the hell out of here. You already got Marquise Davis. I don't need you sniffing around Ahmad Hardy. Because we survived. Kentucky was able to survive the first visit with Ole Miss. Ole Miss actually got a commit from a former Missouri top 100 player, Keemon Lacey. And their Ole Miss is hosting Justice Haynes today. So you feel like you survived the Ole Miss thing, but now Missouri's getting into the mix. And you got to beat those guys.
Yeah, the hard part about all of this, and we've talked about this, just we know there's a pie that they have to divvy up. We just don't know like how much of the pie these players are getting, right? To know what the percentage and all of that stuff. So you just don't know like how much is this going to cost to land Ahmad Hardy. I've talked about how he fits, I think, what they want and what they need. Again, only Ashton Genty broke more tackles than this guy in college football last year.
It's pretty good.
Play for an offense allergic to a passing game, ran for 1,300 yards. 8 times went over 100 yards. Consistency. Not like he just ripped off a 250 and 175 and then had a bunch of 60s and 70s. I mean, he was doing this every week for them. You know, step up in competition and all of that. But this was a true freshman doing that. You know, running back.
On a bad team. Like they leaned on him. He was their entire offense.
If you can run the football, you can run the football. Typically. You know, you see that all the time in the NFL. Backs come from nowhere. So, you know, you have to wonder, like, how much is it going to cost compared to what else we need to afford, all of that. And that's something we just don't know. So it's hard to handicap. But he fits, I think, what they want to do. And him and Wilcox would be a fun 1-2 punch if you keep him up Wilcox on the roster after adding Ahmad Hardy. Like, so there's a thunder and lightning component to that potentially for me. That would be interesting. And Hardy, they ran a lot of stretch zone at ULM. Yeah. We saw Wilcox was good at running that last year. Now, would they have the O-line where they could pull that off? I don't know. Like, believe it when I see it, but
they certainly had the backs that could do it.
Right, where I think that was an issue in the past.
Yeah, and Hardy even mentioned that in his conversation with Jacob. Go check that out. Right now, I think if you're watching live, it's literally the story right below this post on KentuckySportsRadio.com. So go give that a read. He arrives for his visit. Is set to arrive on Thursday, the 19th. And he was like, yeah, I might commit this weekend. I might commit in January. I don't know. I love that I could hear him talking through, like I could hear his accent through the internet, just looking at the screen.
And you just can't wait to interview this guy already.
I want
chomping at the bit.
Oh, make it happen, Mark Stoops. Pony up, baby. Let's make it happen. You know where you don't have to pony up like it is at game time. And here's the thing too, folks. I talk the talk. You hear me talk about game time all the week. I used game time this week, and they came in clutch for me. Because my wife, huge U of L volleyball fan, former U of L volleyball player, they're in the Final Four. They're playing down the road at the Yum Center. I was like, we got to get her tickets. Her team's playing in the Final Four right down the road. We have to go. But the ticket prices are crazy right now. It's been sold out since they went on sale to the general public. I mean, like they sold out that day. at face value. So you got to hit the secondary market. In Game Time, they've got tickets from all different corners of the arena. I didn't use the GT Picks app. I just was like, ooh, what's the cheapest? Found the cheapest seats because I'm a cheapo. And they were even cheaper when I used promo code KSR for my first purchase. You'll get $20 off when you make yours. Promo code KSR, terms apply. That's $20 off your first purchase at Game Time when you use promo code KSR. Really, the best thing I like about Game Time is some of the other ticketing apps will lie to you and they'll be like, oh, it's only $18. And you go to check out and the ticket's actually more like 30. All inclusive pricing. It was like $43 for me to get in the arena. And then look, now they're up to 70, but that's still not too bad to get in to see the Final Four this weekend in downtown Louisville. Final Four is on Thursday with the national championship on Sunday. So I know we're all Cats fans here, but I'll be cheering for my wife's favorite team. And I made it happen in a jiffy thanks to our friends at Game Time. Satisfied customer over here, like it. Like they were in my wallet with it. Like you get so worried. You're buying tickets online. You don't stress. They'll get right to your phone just like that. They're already in my wallet, ready to rock and roll. So, I know you were. Have you been fishing for those Shane Gillis tickets you were talking about?
We have. Ticketmaster's being a little lame.
Oh, see, you got to go to Game Time.
I might have to go to Game Time.
Get that all-inclusive price in there and go see Shane Gillis. He's on tour. I saw Nate Bargatze's going back on tour too. I'm gonna have to go check that out. My best friend growing up is cousins with him, and he just never told me. I'm like, how do you keep this from me, you jerk? Come on, this shows what kind of friend you are. We've been bad friends to our listeners, though, like it, because a lot of people want to talk quarterbacks, and we made them wait 20 minutes to get to the good stuff. So let's go ahead and get to the good stuff, shall we? Let's go ahead and get to the goods. We went from 0 quarterbacks to 2 quarterbacks, just like that. I mean, it happened almost instantly. First and foremost, Maalik Murphy, you sent the text about like, hey, we need to figure out if this is real or not. Turns out certifiably real. Maalik Murphy, the Duke transfer. It went from like, huh, to, oh, snap, he's making his way to campus tonight. That happened in a hurry Monday morning. 1-year starter at Duke. Previously was at Texas, got passed by Arch Manning, basically got over-recruited, but started a couple games as Quinn Ewers' backup in 2023. Came in this year, threw a lot of touchdowns, also threw a lot of interceptions, just shot 3,000 yards passing for Duke, led him to a 9-3 record, their 4th 9-win season since 1941. A successful first year, a player with a lot of upside. And then later on, I mean, it happened actually like 30 minutes after we learned about the visit that Zach Calzada entered the transfer portal. And I had heard that name floated around before his name got into the portal. He was in the FCS playoffs. They lost to San Diego State over the weekend. And then
South
learned
Dakota
late. Sorry, wrong SDSU. But we had heard his name. And so he enters the portal, find out late last night that he actually is going to be arriving Tuesday night for a visit to Kentucky and checking things out. You remember his name from the Texas A&M win over number 1 Alabama. He was the quarterback for that game that threw 3 touchdowns, got his leg taken out late in the game and came back in and led the game-winning drive. But he's bounced around, going for his 7th year in college football. So look at you'll get into it, but like it really does feel like you've got a tale of 2 very different options here that Kentucky's working with at quarterback.
Yeah. Let's just start with Maalik Murphy, former blue chip recruit, lead 11 quarterback. This is a guy who really didn't start playing high school football until midway through his high school career. I mean, just like if he comes to Kentucky, he will throw at the pro day to Kentucky receivers, and that'll be like he'll be a talking point out of that. Like big arm, can throw it down the field, and I think he showed not only does he have this big arm, but he showed like the timing, the ball placement, the accuracy to complete these go throws. I wrote it to KSR Plus today, and I have some clips in there that you can see that he just, flick of the wrist, can throw it 50 yards down the field on the money. He did that. It's all over his Duke tape. He had a deep post touchdown against Kansas State at Texas for 50 yards. He's really good at that. If you let him drop back, play from the top of the pocket, he looks as pretty as any quarterback you will see in college football.
His PFF stats like it when they break down 20+ yards, intermediate, short. He's highest graded on everything over 20. Was like a 91. I think it's like 10 touchdowns and 4 interceptions on yards at 20 plus.
I broke that down in the column. Yards per attempt, touchdowns, all of that. He ranked in the top 15 nationally last year. A few of those guys are going to be draft picks. So just from a baseline, you're like, well, this guy's one of the best deep ball throwers in college football.
Mm-hmm.
So that's intriguing. So what if Kentucky could build like this run-heavy offense, play action pass, deep ball offense? You look at a guy like Jamori Macklin, gold ball winner.
Mm-hmm.
Him with, I think, Maalik Murphy would be intriguing. They're recruiting a guy by the name of J.J. Hester from Oklahoma. That's what he did. He's a vertical Z receiver, field stretcher, so that's intriguing. And you look at I look at what Kentucky's kind of building on offense. I don't know if they don't have that like the slot or this great route runner that's going to, I think, win underneath all the time that they could really jam their passing game to. It seems more like they've got a lot of guys that can run verticals potentially. And so maybe Murphy fits that, but I do think it's concerning that he does not want to not play from the pocket. He wants to play from the pocket. And he doesn't want to leave the pocket. So if protection breaks down, no one's open, could bad decisions come from that? He played in an offense at Duke, which I think very well suited his skill set. Spread, tempo, one read, a lot of RPOs, and they made the game, I think, easier for him. But he threw a lot of interceptions, threw 12 interceptions. Now, they had no running game to speak of. Duke won games this year based on their defense, but Murphy had them in position to finish 10-2 if a kicker hits a field goal against SMU. A chip shot, which cost me an underbet. That would have got them to 10-2, and they're in the playoff conversation. So he's won games. He's 11-3 as a starter if you're into that. And so there's a lot to like about Maalik Murphy, but it's just can he go through in a progression read offense? Can he succeed? It's going to be a lot different at Kentucky than it is at Duke in this kind of spread scheme. And when Nick gets back here, I want to explain what my biggest question mark with him. It doesn't really have to do with the production on the field because we've seen him do some good things. And I think it's important to point out, it's not like he's always been in a spread offense. He went to play for Texas. He was a backup at Texas. Kentucky's offense wants to be similar to Texas, and that operates out of a kind of a pro style structure. And then it blends in some college concepts, whether it's picking up tempo when you need to, quick huddling, no huddling, but it's also getting under center, but it's also running RPOs and things of that nature. And so one of my bigger concerns about Murphy would be just what happened with Duke in that situation. Why did he leave, which would seem like a good situation, and why did Duke quickly pivot and land Darian Mensah? Nick, I'm talking about my biggest concern with Murphy is not necessarily what he's done on the field. Why did he leave Duke? Why did they let him get out of that building? And then why did as soon as he got out of that building, they pivoted and paid Mensah?
Yeah.
It was probably a significant check to get him.
There's that aspect of it. And then there's also the, for all the good that he's done, you also have, my thoughts on the ACC and how they play defense there. How good is it? And I've got a lot of kind of deja vu too, because it's like who's recruiting Maalik Murphy right now? It was Auburn, and then Jackson Arnold, and then did they get Ashton Daniels too? Well, like, did they get both of those guys? Did I see that right? I don't.
Yes. Yes.
So like,
correct.
so that doesn't happen. We don't know who else really
Yeah.
wants him right now. That
I would
part's kind of weird to me too.
I would like to figure out what really happened there. What seems like is probably Murphy went to them. I want to get paid more.
Mm-hmm.
And they were kind of like, maybe not. They went out and paid another guy. That's what it seems like. Because I think the thought was he was going to Auburn when he got in
Yeah.
the portal. But then I think Jackson Arnold became available for Auburn when they maybe didn't think that was going to be
A possibility.
possible.
Yeah.
So then,
Well,
yeah,
now
if Murphy gets
Kentucky.
off campus, it's going to be interesting to see if he goes anywhere while Calzada is in Lexington.
I also wonder too how much it feels like Kentucky wasn't initially considering him, but they're like, wait, we might be able to get this guy. Like, all right, let's have him come up here, see what we think
That's
about this
what,
guy.
yeah, that's what it smells like.
Which
to
is
me.
kind of what happened with Devin Leary, right?
Yeah, kind of similar.
I mean, it's similar skill set, similar spread, like
Yeah, I would
which is
say Leary was a little bit more proven,
yeah, for
but
sure.
Murphy has the higher ceiling. Nick,
Which
we've talked about this. The second year as a starter is usually the big jump for these quarterbacks. You're going to get that for Maalik Murphy. And if he hits, like he's a first round quarterback, if he comes close to hitting because of the physical skill set, this would be your third QB drafted in 4 years. It could change things. That's a big if, and I think Murphy has a similar skill set to Cutter Boley to me. So you can see why they would be intrigued by him, but I do worry about just the lack of kind of off script playmaking. Everything he does just about is on platform. Now, when he plays on platform, he can make some big boy throws, but you've got to be able to create out of structure when you play the kind of defenses Kentucky plays. And we've heard Bush Hamdan talk multiple times about the need for quarterback to be able to create. And so can he do that? That's a big question mark. But if you were able to build like a really good run game and then you just needed a passing game to complement it, I think Murphy potentially could be a big fit or a good fit, as a big play, deep ball quarterback. But we'll see how that works out. I think it's a fascinating decision because I've had people ask me, and I dug into Calzada today. I don't know. I don't think there is a clear right decision to me because I think go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think it's more of just a personal preference. And, I mentioned all of the Leary comps. I feel like we've seen Maalik Murphy before in that regard. I've seen a quarterback like him at Kentucky. He's a higher ceiling guy. Like he's basically like if Brock Vandagriff had a good year in the ACC last year, in my mind, right? I just don't think we've seen a guy like Zach Calzada at Kentucky. Murphy's a high ceiling guy. I think Calzada just raises the floor. And what did we talk about with those offensive linemen? Guys who grinded it out, right? That really had to work at it to that's what you want in your culture. Reading the tea leaves with Murphy seems a little fishy. I feel like Calzada, a dude who he conquered the mountaintop, fell from grace, went through injuries. Like, I mean, he had to live through the Brian Harsin era at Auburn. People forget that. He had to do that and then had to dip down to the FCS ranks. Was good, not great, and then was great recently. And he actually posted his own cut-ups from 2023, Luckett. And half of those plays, he's just running, or like there's one where he almost pulls a Orlovsky and runs out of the end zone.
You say he does. We've never seen that at Kentucky, but we have. He plays like Jared.
Yeah, he's not as big as Jared, but he's like a 6'3" guy who runs a damn ball. And I don't know. I watched Diego Pavia do what he did and see the team kind of like rally around him. And like let's not kid ourselves. this isn't going to be the most talented team in the SEC next year. You're going to need to grit and grind your way through it. And I feel like he's going to be able to get them to grit and grind. That's going to be able to be this sort of heart and soul kind of just rallying the troops that everybody buys into. That's really, really just that feeling. I don't know what that feeling is, but I think he can get that back. Just by the way he plays football, by what he's been through. And I'm sure, obviously, he's an old guy. He's experienced, and there's maybe some injury concerns, but I want to bet on that guy. I want to bet on that guy to finish his college career with a bang. And you know what? It doesn't hurt that we just watched an injury-plagued 28-year-old down the street have some success at Louisville, right? He did it in a much different way, but who's to say that these guys can't work after struggling a little bit and dealing with injuries and moving around a bunch? So I'm just all in on the Zach Calzada train because I think it could be a fun roller coaster ride that kind of, even if he's not the best, can at least get everybody back on the same board, get everybody pulling on the rope at the same time to pull off a few upsets here and there.
Yeah, Jacob Hester, former LSU running back, played for the Chargers. He's on Sirius.
Mm-hmm.
He has a show on Sirius. We've listened to it a few times on our road trips. When him and Bobby Carpenter are on there, they call it Meathead Radio, just two old fullback, running back, linebackers.
Mm-hmm.
But when he talks about Mark Stoops, when Mark Stoops has a big winner, right, he always says, Mark Stoops, too gritty to be pretty, right? That is Zach Calzada. He is too gritty to be pretty. He'll be 25 years old next football season. He will turn 25 on November 8th. Kentucky's halfway through their football schedule. You've mentioned it. 3-star recruit, goes to A&M. He's from Georgia, goes to the land of Texas quarterbacks. Of course, they're going to play the Texas quarterbacks over him. Yep. Haynes King gets injured. He leads A&M helps lead A&M to an 8-4 finish. They beat Alabama. Probably has his biggest moment in that win. A&M was in the college football playoff hunt that year until 2 losses in November to Ole Miss and LSU, both on the road. But he's won SEC games. He goes to Auburn, suffers a shoulder injury in spring ball. They don't play him. Goes to Incarnate Word. And he played. Now, one thing with him, he plays in very much kind of a Mike Leach air raid offense where this past year, 60% of the throws were 10 yards and less. So it was very much screen heavy. I mean, you see bubbles, you see jailbreaks, you see middle screens. It's a lot of getting the ball out quick, but they also leaned into the run game with him. They let him run around. I mentioned Jared. There's Ben Roethlisberger where he's just kind of dancing in the pocket. And you're like, how's this guy not getting taken down yet? And he's able to make some stuff happen, run.
540 non-sack rush yards. And I believe you said that a $140 of them came in the last 3 games.
Yeah, they turned him loose going into the playoffs, essentially. And so what does that look like at Kentucky? It's probably not the prettiest, because it's too gritty to be pretty.
Yep.
But I think it's a lot of to him, I think you see Murphy, you get him, you want to put him in all right, we've got all the pieces around him. We just need the quarterback to let it rip.
Yes.
For Calzada, it's more dude, we got some chicken stuff here. Can you make us some chicken salad?
Yeah.
Can you find a way to make this edible?
That's where I think Kentucky is. And they can get some other nice pieces. And the other part of it too is I don't know how my brain, how I could internally be able to stomach having Bush Hamdan tell us that he needs quarterbacks to run and then getting a quarterback who refuses to run. That would just because he's been a very hard guy for us to figure out, or for me to figure out. I won't speak for you, but each year we got a new offensive coordinator to try to figure out how much bull crap is he feeding us, how much is he not. And this year was a big case of say one thing, do another. We should have gotten Wilcox's ball more earlier. Don't play Wilcox. We're all in on Brock. He's our starter. Let Gavin Wimsatt play for a half, right? It's all this back and forth.
We want to play Gavin. Don't play Gavin.
Yeah, I can't figure out what he wants to do, but I know he said the one thing was our quarterback's got to at least be able to scramble for first downs if need be every once in a while. If they got Malik Murphy, I would just have no idea what Bush Hamdan wants to do offensively. And that's their biggest thing. And you talked about it all year. It's like, just pick something and do it. And I think you've got a better chance if there's a quarterback who you can do some run game stuff with too.
Yeah, that's the hard part about this is you don't know what they want their identity. We think we know, but you don't know. And do that? You have to ask, do they know either? Or you're a prisoner of the market, like I say.
Yeah.
When you're portal shopping, a lot of these players have warts. There's pros and cons that you have to deal with. I think you make a good point about Calzada just being kind of this rough around the edges guy. This was a guy who was crying when they lost South Dakota State.
Yeah.
Like talked really well about their quarterback, or excuse me, their head coach. Name's escaping me at the top of my head right now.
Kilrow or something, or
yeah, something like that. But Clint, it's like Clint Kilrow or Roy, something like that.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot to like about him, and he feels like he fits your culture.
And that's the
from
background check
from where we're sitting now. Closer, you don't know. I don't want to just plug Malik Murphy into this kind of, elitist blue chip recruit who hasn't earned opportunities. I don't think that's necessarily what he is, but there's definitely, I think Calzada fits them because of he's got a little bit more play creation. I think he's a better 3-level passer at this point in his career. Maybe not by much, but at least from what we've seen to this point. And he's got the backyard. I can make some stuff happen.
Especially those like intermediate passes. That's where he's not afraid to throw it across the middle of the field. The game-winning drive he has against Alabama is on YouTube, and there's like a couple plays where he's throwing in traffic, or like one of them he's scrambling on a bum ankle, gets one to the sideline, and then another one where he just right through the heart of the middle of the field to kind of get them in field goal range. So the moments aren't too big for him. You'll need some of that experience here. I think he'll come back with something to prove if he is able to finish his career in the SEC. But I do think there's a good point worth noting here from Brother Gary on the YouTube chat. Nothing's going to change the fact that the SEC will be even better next year. We'll be fortunate to be 5-7. And that is the part that is, you need to make this decision, and it's probably the difference. Like a good decision is the difference between 6-6 and 4-8. Like I don't think it is.
I mean, what kind of? Yeah, we know like the ceiling's low.
Yeah,
but how you get to the record matters too,
and how you look and how. Because the Lynn Bowden team was 7-5, but it felt like they were 9-3 because of just how much fun that ride was with Lynn Bowden. So that's why I think this decision is important. Because yes, you're still. This team this program has a long way to go to get back to where it was, but you got to start pulling the rope in the right direction. And get everybody back on the same page just to make it to where it's a competent, fun football team. And so that when people are talking about it, it's not just like, this sucks, Stoops mailed it in, Jeff Ruby's, blah, 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 blah. Like that people can kind of slowly gravitate away from that. This decision, what they ultimately decide to do is going to go a long way to that.
All that comes back to the culture. How hard do they play?
Mm-hmm.
You felt like this team last year did not play hard, specifically the last half of the season.
Yeah. There's no doubt about it.
How hard do they play? Like that is, do they have an O-line that is like, even if they get beat, are they just fighting you? Like that's what Kentucky offensive line. If you felt like they were on the edge of fighting you at all times. Like even when they were dominating or not, I think that they've lost some of that. I think there's reasons for that. I think finding a quarterback the team can rally around is important. So, see who that is. Kentucky. I think it's proven over time they have to have a bell cow tailback.
Yep.
Like for them to be at their best under Mark Stoops, they got to have a guy at tailback. So finding that, and then defensively. They got to fix the run defense. They cannot sit here and allow competent offenses week in and week out. They cannot make these backs look like Barry Sanders, Thurman Thomas, Adrian Peterson, because that's what happened in the last half of the season.
And remember
Jaden
when
Ball, Jarquez Hunter, Isaac Brown all had they look like, oh my God, this guy's NFL. What's going on? They made Duke Watson. They made all these guys look incredible. That cannot happen.
remember
You
when
got
we
to get
talked,
back to stopping the run.
it was like, this might be the best Kentucky defense ever. And it was like, well, you say that, but they still have to play 6-7 more games. And look what happened. It got ugly. But now the rebuilding process, it's in full gear. And part of the reason why this week is so busy, look at like a lot of people want to get stuff done before Christmas. Teams are going on bowl trips. Players they want to wrap it up before Christmas.
You have to get back to being gritty, not pretty.
Exactly. Not pretty. They've been too pretty. They need to be gritty. And I think we're going to start to see some more commitments roll in the near future because there's been a lot of visitors. We mentioned the one receiver from Oklahoma. There's also a big receiver from Ball State, Justin Bowick, who's supposed to be making his way to Lexington at some point. He had some pretty impressive numbers despite an injury and only playing 4 games. But the one that I'm keeping my eye on too is the tight end from Illinois, who doesn't necessarily move the needle. Hunter Boyer, I believe is his name.
Henry
but
Boyer.
He's 6'7", 270 pounds, or 6'6", 270 pounds. Like,
Mhm.
you want to talk about big guys that can move people off the ball. Like, that's what you're looking for. That's what
they
you're
just
looking
need
for.
They need another body, and he's another Chicago kid. Played at Brother Rice, big high school up there. It's not necessarily an area they've ever recruited, but Nick, you know this. You went there, and I know it too. Like, there's a ton of Chicago kids that go to UK. So that feels like an area they could maybe dabble in a little bit more. And so going in Chicago, getting a couple players here, both to play on the line of scrimmage on offense potentially. Yeah. So that's definitely one I think to watch. Again, left tackle we mentioned is one to watch. Receiver position, Bowick, kid from Atlanta. It's I don't think he started playing football till maybe his senior year, just junior senior year in Atlanta. Goes to Eastern Illinois, has 2 good years, transfers to Ball State, only plays in 4 games but posts big numbers. 6'4" receiver. So that he's an intriguing guy. Some other guys, other teams are in on him too. Louisville, it's around there. Penn State, Cincinnati. So he's a guy I think to watch. Wibberly, we talked about. Chris Murray, I think, is a big one, Nick. You got to get another edge.
Yeah. Same.
This guy, I haven't really dug into the tape yet. Going to have to go down some rabbit holes to find some Sam Houston tape. The YouTube, it's not bountiful with full games of Sam Houston football. But this was the guy who did not play a ton of snaps but produced when he did. The pressure rate's high, 12 tackles for loss, and only like 300, 400 snaps last year. Was a first-team All-CUSA performer. And I think that's what you're seeing a lot of is this productive G5 players who are kind of all-conference guys. When you look at Wolfslager, you look at this guy, Chris Murray, those are all first-team all-conference guys that Kentucky's bringing in, and they're going to ask to produce. And I think he would be him and Sam Green, I think that'd be your top 2 at Jack next year. And I think that would be a good addition. I think Murray has a little bit more pass rushing juice where I like where Sam Green is at a run defender. As a run defender, they need run defense help. I think he will help immediately right there as kind of a hard edge setter at that Jack position.
The thing too with Murray, we got to remember is he was at TCU with Landon Watson, the Marshall linebacker who committed to Kentucky over the weekend. So potential little connection there. And then who was the kid? Oh, I guess it was the Oklahoma kid we mentioned earlier. He was at Missouri previously with Bush Hamdan and Jamori Macklin.
And we didn't mention
Kendrick Law.
We did well, right? Yeah. Kendrick Law is another visitor. I'll get to him in a second. Damian Washington is going to coach receivers here next year.
Oh yeah.
That just get one other thing that happened on Saturday.
Did that happen? And Vince Marrow got connected to Bill Belichick. I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah. Well, Damian Washington played at Missouri, was a senior on that 2013 team. He's 33 years old. He was in a support role staff at Missouri in 2020 with Bush Hamdan, with Macklin. Macklin was in that 2020 signing class. Hester was in that 2020 Missouri signing class. So Hester and Macklin were same signing class at Missouri. So he goes there. Then he goes to Oklahoma, works for Venables and Jeff Lebby. Then he works for Alex Golish at South Florida. Jeff Lebby and Alex Golish both worked under Josh Heupel. So I'm intrigued by that.
Yeah, yeah.
Does he bring any of what we saw from that, and kind of does that trickle up to Bush Hamdan's role, and do they implement any of that? I thought it was interesting, but he's another young guy who played the position, was in the XFL for a couple of years. So he's a guy, like, I think it fits the model that Stoops has, which is I want guys, or I'm trying to get guys who can relate to these receivers who are young, and because that's been the last 2 hires.
It's just, I mean, we're 50 minutes in and we just get to the new receivers coach.
And Kendrick Law is from Shreveport. Guess where Damian Washington is from?
Oh, he's from Shreveport.
So that could be a connection there. Law, kick returner at Alabama. Kentucky doesn't have a kick returner. That's a big question. He could be their kick returner, and he played strictly slot receiver this year for the Tide, for Kalen DeBoer. Kentucky, I think they need a slot receiver. I don't think they have one. I think Macklin's probably better suited playing outside most of the time. Could use a slot receiver, so that might be the answer there. Now, you do get into the if he's not playing at Blue Blood, should we recruit him to play here? That's a fair question, but Alabama receivers also have a track record, some of them. Now, Maalik Benson went to Florida State.
Javon Baker, those two guys are pretty good.
Those are the two big ones. Now, Maalik Benson went to Florida State last year, was supposed to be their guy, and just didn't have it.
Yep.
But one size doesn't fit all. Like, you can't just say, this didn't work for them, it won't work for us. You have to – this is all about hitting on evals and finding fits for your success. And that's what is going to determine your success or failure in the portal, especially in a class like this for Kentucky, where you're going to have to take a lot of guys. And not only do you need starters, you probably need to find some quality depth guys too at positions.
The other part of the Law equation too, I mean, how often was Jalen Milroe throwing it to his slot receiver? Period. Felt like he was deep ball or check down or run. Like that was true. So like I'm not going to put too much on that kid for not being more productive. At a place with as much talent as Alabama. So we've covered a lot of ground here. We had a little bit of breaking news. Looks like Will Levis is getting benched.
I had a feeling that was coming.
I mean, after that yakety sax kind of game,
that was some Madden.
Did you get like third quarter Murray State vibes in that game? Because I kind of did. That was. Well, there was some bad NFL football being played this weekend.
I was sitting there in a third quarter that lasted an hour and a half, and I hadn't watched Joe Burrow on the field, and I was just like, what are we doing here? Like, part of the reason you want to watch the Bengals is like, all right, let's watch. Burrow and Chase are like having these historic seasons. They're trying to get Chase the Triple Crown. That seems like the top goal right now. So, like, let's get them on the field. Instead, interceptions by the Titans, scooping scores, dropping it at the one. Just all kinds of shenanigans going on. So, yeah, that was I think there was 9 turnovers in that game, Nick.
You get Sam Hubbard catching touchdown passes.
It kept and hurting and getting injured.
Yeah.
Potentially out for the year. But even all that, the referees were awful. Levis has a sack fumble the first half. It was clear it's out. Everyone knows the rule now.
Yeah.
You let it go.
And then you review it.
They blow it dead. And they're like, well, sorry about it. And then Pereira gets on there and it's like, yeah, this is one of those situations where review gets it half right. And so the Bengals get the ball, but they probably should have let them score a touchdown.
Yeah.
So, yeah, even though the officiating was awful, they called a legal formation one time when they bring T. Higgins in motion, and he does the thing that they do in protection now where they put him in between, a gap, a guard.
Mm-hmm.
They said it was like 8 men on the line or something. I'm like, what? Like, there was all kinds of shenanigans in Nashville. Music City circus. there. So, but it wasn't an entertaining game. I have to say that.
At least that one was entertaining, and the Thursday night was somewhat entertaining. I'm very glad I didn't watch any of the Monday night games. So you're getting to a slog towards the back half of the regular season where the bad teams are really showing themselves. But a nice little playoff run. We've got college football playoff games this weekend. We'll talk about those some on Thursday. And I know we're learning some destinations. Cortland Ford, he's going to UCLA. Will we know who the Kentucky quarterback is like it when we meet again on Thursday?
Yes, I think so. Oh, Thursday. I don't know. I thought you meant next week.
Yeah, Thursday.
Thursday's cutting it close.
Yeah,
I'd say by Friday.
It feels like a Saturday. Like what
Friday,
time's
Saturday.
the Kentucky Ohio State game?
Right in the middle of I'm trying to watch the playoff action at the house.
Yeah. Which also the NFL. Why are you putting good NFL games in the middle of the first ever 12-team college football playoff? It's like Ravens Steelers and Chiefs Broncos maybe, or on the Saturday, right
Chiefs
in the
Texans.
Chiefs Texans, right in the middle of the playoff games. Like I don't care about you NFL. I'm a Steelers fan. I don't give a damn. I'm watching these playoff games. Like go away. We don't want you.
The answer is they don't care.
But here's the thing. I want them to get smoked in the ratings. I want there to be twice as many people watching these games on ESPN, although the one game is going to be on TNT or whatever. So that might be a little.
There's probably a reason they put Chiefs and Steelers in two of the games on that day.
Just to make sure that they get that built-in audience that they know they're going to get. But that's a little frustrating. But that is going to be a big sports day. So you're right. Imagine one of these is going to commit then. Just bet your bottom dollar.
Yeah. Well, if it's not them, it'll be somebody. I mean, last weekend was perfect. Within 15 minutes, all the news of the day hit at once.
I timestamped it. It was 1:13 to 1:24 that those three pieces of news dropped.
Yeah, it was like, oh, this is what we're doing. I mean, football scoop with the back-to-back.
Yeah, which unusual. You don't see that very often. Never a dull moment during silly season. We appreciate you all joining it. For it all, we'll be back with more Thursday afternoon, around 2 p.m. Hopefully that'll wrap. We can wrap a bow on it, spank it, put it on the bottom, get you ready for your Christmas holiday weekend. Until then, stay safe out there, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you in a little bit. He's Adam Luckett. I'm Nick Roush. It's been 11 personnel.